welcome back. I hope you're having a good day. About 6 weeks ago, I dug a couple bushes out of my yard. 3 cuttings in one pot. And the cutting in the middle had died a long time ago. And then the other plants around it were kind of overcrowding it. And it was actually getting to a point where, because this one was still alive and the other ones were overcrowding it, it was kind of getting in the way of my lawnmower. And so I just decided to go ahead and dig it up. It was kind of looking kind of straggly the where it was, especially with that dead cutting in the middle of it. So it was sold to me as star jasmine. It turns out that it's a Wrightia species that I just really can't pronounce. I'll put it in the description and everything, but it's called like Asian snow jasmine, even though it's a Wrightia species. Give you guys a little bit of a closer look up. And that's what the flowers look like there. I do have another little bud on that side. But this one had the bigger root ball, and I wound up putting in this terracotta pot with some potting soil. And with the bloom on there and everything, it's looking pretty healthy. These branches here are all new. These were already there, you know, these and this one. But I'm going to clean it up, and this one's actually new as well, this little sprout that it's got here. And let's see, and really show you guys the other side, but got a little stump there that I'll have to carve out one day. I don't want to rough it up too much right now, but since it looks like, well, actually there's a little bud coming out there. I was going to say it looked like that whole piece was dead. There is just the smallest little bud right there, right above my fingernail. And actually I thought I was going to cut back to this one, but since there is a bud there, I'll leave it there. And I actually see now I did reach some live wood there too. I'll cut that off. And then this little dead chunk here, I'll probably wind up pruning after that bud goes ahead and flowers and kind of comes out. I don't want to take away, and it's one of these things of sometimes they say to cut it before it flowers, but I don't want to take any energy away from this thing either. So, and then this branch, if this was, you know, an established potted plant, I'd probably take the whole thing off. But I'm going to go ahead, it's got 3 branches on there. I'm going to take one of them out. And now it's just 2 branches on that. All right, and then there's this one. And this one has a much more interesting looking base. But when I dug it up and just started pruning on the roots a little bit, there just really wasn't all that much to it. And so, it was nice and tight, and I just, I had a good idea that it would survive, but I put it in here, just in bonsai substrate, and it seemed to do its bounce back too. This branch here also has a little bud on it, not a flower yet, but it is budding. But once I noticed it was recovering, I did notice that, what it's made up of. You've got like a thicker trunk kind of heading this way. And then this one's a little bit thinner, but it's got 2 kind of like sub trunks coming off of it, where this one only has the one. You can see here, like this branch is not growing straight into this, but then the other like node that it has that's active is growing straight into that other branch there. And just to kind of reduce the load on it, I mean, I'm going to have to, I plan to leave it in this pot for at least a year or so. Being that it survived the initial repot, I don't want to disturb it too much. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that off, and then that should allow it to kind of put a little more energy into that lower one. And then I was going to look at a couple other things too. That little piece there is dead. So now I've got that cut a little bit lower. That can come off this way. This, if I decide to try to save this kind of looks like a different color than anything else. Almost looks deadish, but it does have that little sprout coming out there. And this one's just growing right into it. This one down here is growing into that bigger one in the middle. So I was going to take that off. That was so small, you guys might not have seen that. That was coming from here and going that way. It's kind of putting some fresh cuts. Give the leaders kind of like a chance to lead, if you will. All right, and last but not least, this is the Wrightia Religiosa. It is not a jasmine, just like that Asian snow jasmine is not a true jasmine. It's a Wrightia. But it's called water jasmine just because a lot of people like to plant them next to ponds, and if the pond water is still, you can see the blooms facing downward and reflecting up in the pond, and so it's reflecting off the water. They're very fragrant. It's been really windy outside, so it's been hard to smell outside, but it's actually making me choke up a little bit in here. It's so fragrant. It smells like somebody sitting next to me with perfume on. But I was at the nursery the other day to pick up some soil, and I grabbed it. I liked it. It had a lot of lower branching and everything. And I'm about to break my rule of I usually let them acclimate to the new home before I really do anything. But I did notice, and it's probably going to be, you'll see where it comes out in a minute, but I did notice that there's a thick branch down here that comes straight up and has like bypassed everything else there, and it actually comes out right here. And I don't want the tree putting any energy into that. And even though it has so much foliage on it, it's kind of covering it up. You guys can now see where that's like a whole stick. Probably should have tried to take a cut in there, but really small. Hopefully this thing grows like other tropicals, maybe gives me an opportunity to get more cuttings from it. And then, even though I am breaking that rule, I did just kind of see a couple other branches were either going straight up, or there's just like a whole bunch coming out of one spot. And of course, sometimes my rule is just so that they have a chance, you know, to get used to the new home or whatever. This thing didn't even have any flowers on it when I picked it up, so it's definitely